Welcome to the lab of Advanced Computer Network. Today we're going to see how to install and configure a proxy server. There are lots of softwares available on the internet. Mainly for Windows we can use CCProxy, and for Linux the popular one is Squid. So today we're going to see how to install and configure CCProxy. First of all, we will need to download the software, the CCProxy, from the internet. It's a free software available, made available by a group called Youngsoft. You can simply type CCProxy into Google search engine and you get the first link. I've already downloaded it so that it's easy for me to set up. Installation is pretty simple. Welcome screen, next, location. I don't want quick launch icon created, and launch. Now the version of CCProxy that we're using is a demo version, and in demo version only 3 simultaneous users are supported. Other than that, all the features are available in this version. So at a time only 3 users can connect to this software using the proxy. So this is the basic interface of the CCProxy. Now to understand how CCProxy works, you need to know what is a proxy server. Now proxy servers are mainly used to share the internet connection among the different users. That means you have a single internet connection from a particular ISP and you want to share it with other users inside your network. Now the reason why we use proxy primarily is because it has a feature of filtering and caching. Filtering helps out in filtering out certain websites or data that may need to be blocked inside the private network. Caching is simply saving the repeated queries into the memory so that when the repeated query occurs again, we can just serve it from the cache. So because of these two features, we use proxy servers mainly. Now, the way we use the proxy server, we can have two different configurations possible. Now here, this is the first one where I have a internet from a particular service provider connected to a router. This router in turn is connected to a proxy server. Now it is possible that your router and the proxy server are the same device. Uh, then this proxy server is connected to a switch, and from there all the computers are connected. So now to get access to the internet, all the computers have to go through the proxy server. So basically the proxy server has the complete control over who access what. So this case everything is under control. But in the second case, in this case the internet is provided to the router. The router is directly connected to the switch, and the switch is in turn connected to all the computers, and one of them is our proxy server. Now this will also work fine, but the only problem is the computers need not go through the proxy server because they have direct access to the internet. So now the router over here needs to do needs to add a special rule so that only the proxy server is allowed the internet, whereas the other computers are denied. So that if these computers require the internet, they have to go through the proxy server and to the internet. So these configurations may need to be done depending on which type of network you have on your premises. Now right now I'm going to what I've installed is my computer here has a direct internet connection. via a router. So basically I'm using the second type of configuration. So I already have the internet, direct internet connection. If I type Google, I have the internet connection. So my pages are opening. And right now, even though the software, proxy server software is running, I'm not using it. The reason is this is the server software. And to use the proxy server, the client, that is your browser, needs to be configured. Now to configure any browser to use a proxy server, there is a simple way. Just go to your customize Google Chrome panel. If it's a Chrome browser, go to settings and scroll down, and there you will find show advanced settings, and little bit later you will find change proxy settings, and here you can go to connections, and inside connections you will have LAN settings. Now here is the place where you have to put the proxy server address. Now since the proxy server is hosted on this computer itself, that is the host computer itself, you may put over here address 127.0.0.1, that is the address of this computer itself, uh, host. Or what you may want is you may find out the IP address of this computer, that is 192.168.1.141. So I may use this also over here. Now the thing is the second part, that is a port. Now how will I find out what is the port at which this server is running? So now to find out we have to jump into our options. So let's start configuring before setting up the client. So to configure the proxy server, there are you need to understand the panel, that is the GUI of this software. First of all, I have a start button to start the server and stop button to stop the server. Then I have the options configuration panel where I'm going to configure the CCProxy and how it should work. Then I have the account manager, which is useful to filters and restricted access to users. Then register is to register the this version, so that demo version is converted into a full version. From the monitoring field, you may monitor who all are using the internet, what all they are accessing. Hide will simply hide it to your system tray. Now let's go to the options panel. Now if you look at this, I have the port set to 808. Now it's always better to change the port to something greater than 1024. So let's say we want to use 9090. So here I'm using HTTP RTSP protocol hosted at port 9090. HTTPS or secure HTTP also at port 9090, FTP also at 9090, and remaining other services at different ports. So these are the configuration, minimum configuration that I need to do. Other than that, over here, these are the some of the settings, whether you want to enable DNS, that is the whether the DNS should be resolved by the proxy or not. And DNS stands for domain name system server. And caching, enable or disable web cache, remote dial-up, auto startup. If this is selected, it starts automatically after every reboot. Auto hide, it will automatically hide this GUI to the system tray. And below over here you can select which local IP to listen on. Now if I remove the auto detect, it is already listening on this particular IP address, that is our computer's IP address. So it is always better to use auto detect. And then if you want to run this software as a service, you can just select this and OK. The advanced field we will go in a little while. We will directly start with the configuration. We'll click OK, and After every change in the configuration, you should stop the server and start it. So now our server is running now and running at port 9090, and now we can configure our clients. Configuration of the clients, as I said, is very easy. Just go to change proxy settings, LAN settings, select this and find out your IP address. Your IP address is 192.168.1.141. That is 192.168.1.141, and the port is 9090. Bypass proxy server for local addresses. Okay, so now if I type google.com, it is going through the proxy and not through the direct internet. Now if you look at this, there is a slight activity over here. If I click monitor, you will see that someone tried to connect to google.com. That means now my proxy server is being used. So whatever query I make, it is using the proxy server. Let's say for example I try to type facebook.com, and here I have a lot of information flowing through it, and look at the number of connections. I just opened facebook.com and there are so many connections, around 15 connections made by the web browser to the proxy server. So now here everything is fine. It is working properly. So our proxy server is configured. Now how to optimize and how to filter out the things so that only restricted users have access to the proxy server. So there are lots of ways to do that. Okay, so right now everything is accessible. Anybody can use the proxy server that we have installed, but since it's a demo version, only 3 users can use it. Now to restrict users from accessing the proxy server, we have to go to the second option, that is a fourth field over here, that is the account manager. Now if you look at the account manager, right now it says permit all. That means anybody can access the internet through this proxy server right now. Now first thing to do is put it on permit only. So now I have restricted the users to a certain criteria. Now the criteria depends on the auth type. Now the auth type, we have lots of different options. First one is IP address. So if I select IP address over here, then I click new. So only the IP address that I type in, only they will be allowed to use the internet. Second is MAC address. So same like IP address, we have MAC address. It is the hardware address of your computer. So if I type in MAC address, only the computers having those MAC addresses will be allowed to use the internet. Third one is username password. Now the third feature is that let the user may be sitting on any computer, but if he has a valid username password, he may be able to access the internet. Now the problem with these three authentication methods is IP address, anybody can change their IP address to whatever they want. MAC address uh, can also be changed with certain softwares like TMAC and others. So even those two methods are not perfectly secure. Username passwords are secure, but the problem is that if the user leaks it out, then the system is vulnerable. So now the thing is, we can add additional level of security by using the username password as well as the IP together, or username password as well as the MAC together, or I can have IP and MAC together without the username password. So these are the other methods that is available. So let's start with the first one, that is IP address. Now the first one we have selected as IP address. Select a new category. user group names, this is it, and the IP address range. Let's select that the only person allowed for IP address is, let's say, 141 is my address, so 192.168.1.23 is the only person who is allowed to use the internet. So if this is the case, then let's try this out. Okay, save. Okay, so now this is the case. Now let's try to let's stop the server. Okay, since we have done the configuration, we have to always stop and start the server, and it's ready. Let's type Google, and it says web page not available. That means we have successfully blocked the internet. So only people that those are allowed, like for example, if I just edit this and put it as my own IP address, that is 141, and save. Okay, stop, start, and now if I press enter, I'm getting my internet connection back. So this is how you control it with the help of IP addresses. The same is possible with MAC address. You can find out the MAC address of your computer by going into details, and this is your MAC address. If you put this over here by clicking the new MAC address field, and this will help you in blocking the internet from the users with the help of MAC address. Now let's move on to username password, that is the third type. Let's delete this entry and create a new entry. Now this time it is username password. Let's say I have a user called admin and with a password admin. So only this user will be allowed to use the internet. Either save. Uh, so I have all these things set. Okay, stop, start the server back again, and let's type Google. And it asking for a username password. If I type admin and password is also admin, if I log in, it's waiting for the yes, and here we have the web page Google back. Okay, it is asking for save password, so if you want you can save it if it's your own computer. And hence we have looked for three types of authentication methods: IP address, MAC address, and username and password. The remaining three you can try it on your own. It's the same as the above ones. Now till here we have just restricted the users, or depending on their username password, or maybe their IP address, or maybe their MAC address. Now what we're going to do is we are going to edit or create another account. Let's say for example user 1 with the password user 1, and now instead of clicking OK as we usually did, we are going to look into what all the remaining settings that we can do. So below we can see that what are things we are allowed to do over here. First of all, maximum number of connections. Now if you have carefully seen how when we typed in Facebook there were around 15 connections made. So we were allowed to do 15 connections because the value of maximum connections over there was -1. That means -1 stands for unlimited connections. So if I put over here only 5 connections, then definitely Facebook will not be able to open itself because it was taking a lot of connections. Secondly, you can have bandwidth restrictions, upload and download. Like for example, if I want a user to get a speed of only 10 kbps per second, then I can write over here 10. So he will be able to download at the rate of 10, upload at the rate of some few kilobytes per second. Okay, let's try that. So let's say we put in over here only uh, 10. Before that, I would like to show you what is the speed if I download it directly. Okay, so let's press OK, stop the server, start it again, and since I've already logged into this, I will have to clear the browsing data so that the username passwords are not stored. Okay, so I will just press enter. Sometimes the data is not cleared, so what you can do is just shut down the browser and start it again. Now it's asking for a username password. Let's type in the username to be user1 and password to be user. So now if I try to log in, I definitely get the page, and if I want I can open Facebook. Let's download something from the internet, like for example uh, anything from Microsoft website. Microsoft.NET framework. Okay, so I can click download. I'm getting, let's download anything that we can think of. Okay, next. Okay, so right now I can see if I go to show downloads, I'm getting a speed of 86, around 69 kbps speed, 31, some fluctuating speed. Let's pause it for a while. Just go to accounts, edit user 1, and let's do the download bandwidth to only 5 kbps per second. Okay, stop, start, and let's try to resume it. Just look at this, the speed. It has reduced and it is not allowing it to go above 5 kbps per second. So it will fluctuate plus minus a little value, but it is restricted to that 5 kbps range. 3.6 and 7.2, it is in between that. So this is how we can restrict restrict users download speeds. Let's go on to some other features that is possible. Let's go put it back to -1, unlimited bandwidth. Then here we have lots of other things that is possible that we can do with this use. First of all, we will start with the web filter. Web filter helps you to block certain websites that the users can visit. Like for example, if you can enable web filter for this particular user, I can press the E button over here and create a new filter. Let's say I create a filter called block YouTube. So I don't want my users to visit YouTube. So I will type uh, youtube.com. Now since I want to block anything that is starting with YouTube, I will use start star and dot, so that any subdomain inside YouTube is blocked completely. Now that's it for this thing. But now here I have to select the site filter, whether this particular site is permitted site or forbidden site. So since I want to block it, I will be selecting forbidden site. Save it. Okay. And okay. Saved it. Okay. And now stop the server. Start it again. And let's try to visit YouTube. Okay, before YouTube, let's try whether the net is working or not. Let's open up Google. My internet connection is a bit slow. Okay, just Google. Let's check. Okay, so net is working, Google is working. Let's try to open YouTube. Website unauthorized. So this simply shows that how we can block a particular user from accessing certain sites. This is one of the things that we can do. Secondly, if you don't want to web filter, uh, let's say we want to web filter. Along with that, we want to create a time schedule. This time schedule over here can help you in allowing the internet connection for a particular amount of time. Like for example, if you are in a corporate environment and you want your employees to use the internet only after the work period. So during the work period you don't want your employees to use the internet. Then in that case, this is what you can do. You can enable the time schedule, select the E part, and now here you can select, you can give it a name, block internet. Okay, so now on Sunday, what times you want them to use the internet. Right now, the users can use the internet at any particular time, all the 24 hours. So if you want, so today is Sunday, so you can go to this tab over here and just you can read the tip what it denotes. When one denotes that the internet access is permitted from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So if I want, let's say for example, I want my users to use the internet between uh, let's say 3 to 4 only in the evening. So it will be, I have to unselect all, and 3 to 4, that means I have to select 4, because when I select 4 it is 3 to 4. So this is the only thing that I'm going to allow. I click OK and again OK. So on Sunday, now if I click OK over here and if I try to browse the internet on Sunday, you are allowed internet only during 3 to 4. So this you can test it on your own. So like that you have lots of other features also. Let's say I want to block the internet on a particular day. So this is the third option that you can have. For a particular day on a particular time, you want to auto disable the internet. Then you can also have bandwidth quota for each user. Like for example, over here what you do is, what you get is the fixed bandwidth quota. That means if you say 5 throughout the instance, you will be getting only 5 uh, kilobytes per second. But what if you want to restrict the user from downloading too much of data? So what you can do is you can allot bandwidth quota. Like for example, he can download at around 1 GB of data in 30 days. So per month, the user is allowed only a bandwidth quota of 1 GB. So this I can put it like this to block the users from using excess bandwidth. The last one, that is left time, is used uh, for in like we can use it for a cyber cafe sort of a thing where every user gets a particular amount of time to browse the internet. So if I say I want to give a user only 5 hours time, so I will just put here 5 over here. So the user gets 5 hours of time to browse the internet. After 5 hours he will be automatically disconnected. So these are all the settings that are available. Once these settings are done, you can save it, okay, and you can even test it. One last thing I would like to share regarding the proxy server is you can also create groups in this. So like for example, click new, and let's say I want to create a group of students, and then what I do is I select as a group and I do some settings. I block YouTube. I want to block the internet between some timing and etc etc, and I save it. So now this is a group and not a user. So the people or the users cannot log in with this account. Now what is the use of this? Let's say I want to create a new account, uh, let's say test, and with the password test, but I don't want to make all these settings again and again. So I will just go to belongs this group and I will select students. So this user test is automatically assigned all the settings of the students group. Click save. That's it. So now when I want to change the settings of the students, I just have to edit this and not all the students that are there in my proxy server configuration panel. So this finishes with our proxy server lab work. You can always check for the monitoring tab to monitor how many users are using it, who how many accounts have used how much bandwidth, how many bytes of data transfer are done, how many connections are established, and etc etc. Thank you very much for watching.